Ever pinch pennies all year for that one family vacation only to feel the budget blues afterwards? If so, I was just like you. After 3 vacationless years, I stumbled on credit card rewards travel and cracked the code to amazing vacations that I could actually afford.
Welcome to Wonderland on Points. In this podcast, you will discover how opening credit cards strategically can save you thousands on travel. We're not just dreamers anymore. We're 2 adventurous moms turning dreams into reality. Join us as we spill all the points and miles secrets.
And contrary to popular belief, you don't have to spend $1 million to earn 1,000,000 points. Traveling on credit card points isn't reserved for those with overflowing bank accounts. It's for everyday people like you and me, learning to turn routine expenses into free travel.
Consider us your points travel guides. This is Wonderland on Points. Let the adventure begin. Welcome back to Wonderland on Points, everybody. We are here today with our friend Addie. You can find her on Instagram at In Pursuit of Points. She's a millennial mom who loves to travel on points. This year alone, in 2025, she's cashed in over $45,000 worth of travel redemptions thanks to Points and Miles. She did not spend that much on it. That's why we're all here, to learn how to travel so much more for less out of pocket. Today, Addie has been to Spain a bunch of times, and she's going to share one of the trips that she took recently with her family there today. So welcome, Addie. We are so excited that you're here.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you on and to talk about Granada specifically. But before we get started, tell our listeners a little bit about you, the makeup of your family and who you travel with, and how did you get into the world of using Points and Miles and teaching Points and Miles online?
Sure. I'm Addie. I live in Virginia with my husband and 2 kids. I have a 6-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter. And I was a lawyer for many years, and now I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom and a part-time Points and Miles enthusiast. I started in the Points and Miles hobby back in 2016. I had read some blogs about how you could use credit cards to earn points for travel, and then I finally decided to dive in because my husband and I had just gotten engaged, and of course we wanted to plan an awesome honeymoon and not break the bank. We were paying off my student loans, we were saving for a house and retirement, and didn't want to derail any of those goals, but we still wanted to take an awesome honeymoon. So long story short, we each opened a few credit cards and used them for our wedding expenses and our everyday spending. And after a few months, we had enough points to cover a 10-day trip to Thailand for our honeymoon.
Ooh, so exotic.
It was amazing. It was. I know. I wanted to go somewhere. Neither of us had been to Asia before, and we wanted to do something really big for our honeymoon. We flew economy there. We flew business class on the way back, and we stayed in super nice hotels, resorts on the beach, and hardly paid anything out of pocket. So I was immediately hooked. And since then, we've used points to travel to Italy. We did an Austria and England trip over the holidays quite a few years ago to do Christmas markets. We've been to Hawaii, to California many times to visit family. We've been to Cancun twice, and then have taken a lot of smaller domestic trips as well.
Ooh, you're going to have to give us any Austria tips if you have anything we should know about Vienna before we go. I feel like Thailand is such a genius idea for a honeymoon because your points go so far and you still get that tropical experience. Like everyone wants to go to Bora Bora or even Hawaii or whatever. I feel like Thailand is genius. You get so much trip out of those points.
We really did. I think the nicest hotel I've ever stayed in was on that trip at the St. Regis Bangkok. My husband travels for work, and so he is my hotel status guy. He's the muscle in earning hotel status. And he had, at the time it was Starwood. He was in the Starwood program, which is now Marriott. And he had the highest status with Starwood. And so St. Regis was a Starwood brand. And we got there, they whisked us up to this super high floor, And they actually did our check-in in the room. They sent somebody up with us to check in the room. We were in this huge suite. It had 2 bathrooms. It had multiple rooms. It
Wow.
was ginormous. The breakfast buffet was to die for, and that was included too. So I'm dying to go back. And it was so cheap on points at the time. I was like, this is incredible. We should have stayed here longer.
Yes. Oh, that's amazing. Maybe we need to hear about that trip sometime. Or if you do a redo, you'll have to come back and talk about it. But
Mhm.
today we are talking Spain specifically, and you absolutely are an expert. Give everybody a little bit of an overview because Granada was just a part of a larger trip. And for the sake of this episode, we want people to understand how they can get to Granada specifically. So tell us where you came from, where you flew into, how many points, and all of that. And then you can tell people your larger itinerary just so they kind of get an understanding of where you went while you were over there.
Sure. So, like you said, the Granada was part of a larger trip we did. It was about 2 weeks. And so we flew first from Washington, D.C. to Madrid. We had a quick layover in Paris. We spent 3 nights in Madrid, and then we took the train to Granada. We spent 3 nights in Granada. Then we took another train to Sevilla and spent 3 nights there. And then we took a quick flight over to Lisbon and spent 3 nights in Lisbon. So 4 cities, 3 nights. And then we flew out of Lisbon back to Toronto because that's where I found the flight deal too.
Yeah.
And spent one night just at an airport hotel in Toronto, and then did a quick hop back to Washington, D.C.
Were your kids old enough to appreciate the quick stop in Toronto just for the sake of saying now they've been to Canada? Maybe they had already been to Canada, but my kids are old enough that they're like, oh, like there's a trip coming up and we are really not spending much time in Sweden, like a day, part of a day. But they're so excited because they're going to be like, oh, we can check Sweden off on our list of countries that we visited.
Yes, of course. My son, especially, he's 6, and he's so into travel, and he's so into airplanes and flights, which I love because that's also what I'm into. So that was their first time in Canada, and they were like, "Great, we can check Canada off the list."
Do y'all have one of those cute little scratch off maps? I think those are so fun.
We don't, but we need to get one now that we're starting to go more places and take the kids to different countries. We definitely need to get one.
Hot tip, last year I found some of those scratch off maps at the Dollar Tree. They were super nice. I have no idea if they're still there, but they were beautiful. You hang them on the wall. They were domestic, so they weren't world ones, but there was a states one and a national park one. And they were so pretty when you scratch them off. They have gorgeous colors. I gave them to the kids that I nanny, and they are big, big fans. So I don't know if those are still there, but everybody should check the Dollar Tree because that was a fun find. Let us know what it cost for you to get US to Madrid on points and which airline.
Okay. So to get to Europe, we flew from Washington Dulles, IAD, to Madrid and had a short layover in Paris. It was about 4 hours. And we flew Air France, and I booked it through Air France, the Air France KLM Flying Blue program. And we flew business class because we're family travel, but we're a little bougie. I think that's my personal brand now is family travel, but make it a little bougie. So it cost 55,000 points per adult and 41,250 points per child because on Air France and KLM, children between the ages of 2 and 11 get a 25% discount on the points price. So they were a little bit cheaper than the adult tickets. And then it was $220.90 per person in taxes and fees. So the total for 4 of us for that flight was 192,500 points and $883.60 in taxes and fees. And I transferred all of those points from American Express to Air France KLM Flying Blue to book.
Were you able to capitalize on a transfer bonus at all?
I was not. I wish. It never seems to line up for me, but I still thought it was a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
It was the Air France saver rate,
great.
and I did book it almost exactly a year in advance. I sort of had this trip in mind for summer of 2025, and so in summer of 2024, I was searching for flights every day, and this one came up. This is the first flight that I booked for this trip, and then built the rest of the trip around this flight.
We say that a lot with business class. You either need to get it right when the availability opens up or be flexible enough to wait last minute. You can get some crazy deals last minute, but when you're booking for a family, that's just not realistic. So if you guys right now are thinking about travel next year, or this summer, think about, okay, I need to be a year out, or do a little bit of research on whatever airline you're booking, see exactly how many days out they release their calendar. Sometimes it is a year out, but sometimes it's 330 days out. Or, they have this weird specific number of days that is almost a year out, but not quite a year out, where they will release their award availability. So look into those kind of details. If you know that there's someplace you want to go, you have an idea of which airline it's probably going to end up being on, find out when that calendar opens up.
Absolutely. I feel like the cash rate for 4 business class flights was probably astronomical. So this feels like an awesome deal. I'm sure one of those flights was more than the taxes and fees that you paid for all 4 of you.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you'd have to get pretty lucky, I think, to book one flight to Europe for $883, which was the total taxes and fees that we paid. I think the last flight to Europe that I took before I got into points, I flew to Madrid and back, and it was over $1,000 for that ticket, and that was in economy. So we're getting so much bang for our buck with these points, and we're able to fly business class, which I absolutely would never ever pay for out of my pocket. And we're able to travel more frequently and more luxuriously.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, so you get to Madrid and you stayed there, but we're not going to talk about Madrid today. So talk to us a little bit about the train to get to Granada. What is the cost like and how far is it?
So the train from Madrid to Granada took about 3.5 hours. And I want to say it was maybe about $100 per person. Spain has a great train network. There are high-speed trains. There are trains to all different towns. It's a great way to travel and a lot easier than trying to rent a car or even fly.
Yeah, absolutely. I love a train.
Give us a little bit of the inspiration for why you decided to include Granada on your itinerary, because I know you have visited Granada multiple times. I think the first time maybe in college. So was that a little bit of why you chose to go again with your kids? Did you want to just share something special with them? What made you put Granada on the itinerary for this trip?
Yeah, I studied abroad in Madrid for a semester in college, and during that time I completely fell in love with Spain, and it's always been my dream to take my family back there. My husband had never been to Spain, and of course the kids hadn't either. This was the kids' first time in Europe. So I've traveled to a lot of different regions in Spain, and they all have their own culture and climate, and even the language is different in some places. So the southernmost region of Spain is called Andalusia. And when you think of stereotypical Spain, a lot of the time you're thinking of flamenco dancers and matadors and the beautiful Moorish architecture. And so that's basically Andalusia in a nutshell. And on this trip, we visited Granada and Sevilla, which are both in Andalusia. And that's just the part of Spain that's always been the most intriguing to me, and I think it's just so beautiful, and it really has that traditional Spanish vibe that I wanted to experience with my family. I wanted to take them there and give them a little taste of my favorite part of Spain.
Oh, Looking at your highlights was so magical. Everybody needs to run over to Addie's Instagram and look through her Granada highlight because you will fall in love instantly. It looks so like romantic, kind of that same vibe I get when I look at things with Italy is just this. I want to be wearing flowy dresses and walking through these old streets and like sitting down and drinking a bottle of wine outdoors. Like it's a whole picture for me that I got from just watching your highlights. And I really, really want to put this on my list actually for next year. You stayed in an Airbnb instead of at a hotel. And maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that decision. I saw the cost. You put that in your highlights as well. And you erased, I think you said half of it with your Capital One points. But before we dive in, I was like, you stayed 3 nights. It was like $660. If you're erasing that with points, guys, that comes out to 22,000 points per night, which is so comparable to a Hyatt, like a nicer Hyatt. And you had this massive, it sounds like it was massive, this Airbnb, balconies and all kinds of stuff. So anyways, tell us about it. But I feel like people really sleep on the Airbnb and erasing thing. They always are like, this is not a good value. I don't really care about the cents per point. I care about how many points I'm spending overall.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought. I know I could get more value from Capital One miles if I transferred them out to an airline and booked something. And sometimes I do that. But for this trip, we needed to do an Airbnb for this Granada portion, and I wanted to cover some of the cost with those points. Like a lot of the hotels in Europe, it can be difficult to find hotel rooms that fit 4 people, especially when you're using points. And we did manage to do it in Madrid and Lisbon. We got suites at Hyatt's in Madrid and Lisbon, but Granada didn't really have those options. It's a smaller city than Madrid or Lisbon or even Sevilla, and didn't have as many point hotel options in general. And I knew that we wanted to do some kind of Airbnb or apart hotel where we could all stay together. And you mentioned the cost, $660 for 3 nights, which is super affordable. And Granada is a very affordable city. I think Spain in general is cheaper than a lot of Europe, but out of all of the places we went in Spain, our money went the farthest in Granada, even for food and activities and things like that, and definitely for these accommodations. Our Airbnb was in the Albaicin area of Granada, and that is the historic Moorish quarter of the city. It's the oldest neighborhood in Granada, and it's way up on a big hill, and it's a maze of whitewashed buildings and narrow streets and alleys and cobblestones. And then the real showstopper is that you have a perfect view of the Alhambra, because when we're thinking about the geography of Granada, you've got the Albaicin on one hill and you have the Alhambra on the other hill, and then the city is in the valley in between. So a lot of people stay down in the valley because that's where all the hotels are, and then they pop up to the Albaicin for a couple hours and they look at the view and they maybe eat dinner or something. But I wanted to stay there and have that view and that feel be a part of our entire stay. So we found this perfect Airbnb. It was cozy. It was 2 bed, 1 bath, maximum occupancy of 4, but it had 3 balconies, including this gigantic rooftop terrace that 100% sold me, and had the perfect view of the Alhambra. And we sat up there for hours and hours, and it was just amazing.
It looked amazing. It looked incredible. If you don't mind, send us the link to the actual.
Just gonna say that.
People reach out to us all the time. Someone reached out to me recently for the link to my exact London Airbnb, because sometimes it's scary to book, things online. I don't know. You don't know. So it's really helpful to have like a specific link of, we know that this place is great. We know someone that has stayed there. So send it to us. We'll put it in the show notes, everybody. give us a quick history lesson of the Alhambra because you're an expert. I mean, you've been so many times. Tell us about it and any important tips that you have for visiting it.
So the Alhambra is a palace and a fortress complex, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And it's one of the best preserved palaces of the historic Islamic world. It's very old. The construction began in the year 1238 by the first Nasrid ruler of Granada. At the time, the Moors ruled Spain. And it was originally a self-contained city and had a mosque and the hammams, which are public baths, had roads, homes, its own water supply system. And of course, over the years, it was continuously developed and expanded. And then the Christian Reconquista happened in 1492, and King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain kind of took over. They built a Spanish Renaissance style palace in the middle of this Alhambra complex, and it became their royal court as well. So that's where Christopher Columbus went to ask for money to fund his expeditions. So a ton of history right there.
Love that so much. I love things that I actually remember learning about because, man, I don't remember a lot about being a child and history lessons, but when something that really stuck comes together with something that you can see and experience and touch in real life, it is so incredible for me. It's why I wish I could homeschool my kid and just like take her world schooling. What an experience, though. That I mean, the videos looked incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Nasrid Palace is the best preserved part of the complex, and that's where the architecture is just so stunning. And it's the traditional Moorish design, which has a lot of geometric pattern mosaics, so very colorful. Then it has carved stucco and then sculptures that kind of looks like stalactites coming down from the ceilings of these big vaulted ceilings. So it's totally stunning. And water was also really important to them. So there are these beautiful fountains everywhere and reflecting pools all throughout the palace and the gardens. So it's just really beautiful. It's really peaceful. You can hear just the water trickling through the little canals and out of the fountains. And it is definitely something that you should go see if you ever get a chance.
Amazing. Give everybody all of the tips that they need to know for visiting because it does seem like there are some things people should keep in mind about buying tickets, about potentially having strollers and not being able to use those. So prepare everybody and give them all the insider things so they can avoid any like $200 tickets day of.
Yes, very important. You have to book your tickets in advance. And this is not something you can walk up to the day of because they sell out every single day. And we saw tons of people that were there trying to get in, first thing in the morning, and they were being turned away. Like, no tickets, not possible. So ticket sales open 3 months in advance. And so I set myself a calendar alert, and that is when I bought our tickets, 3 months ahead of time. And the tickets aren't expensive. They're about 19 euros per person and per adult, and then the kids were free. But you definitely do need to get them in advance. And the other thing is that not only do you need to buy tickets, but you need to reserve an entry time for the Nasrid Palace. So not only do you need to buy your tickets in advance, but you also need to reserve an entry time for the Nasrid Palace, which is the main attraction there that you definitely want to see. And the first timed entry of the day is at 8:30 a.m., and that's what we chose. We have little kids. We're up early anyway, and I 100% recommend doing that if you can, because we were one of the first people into the complex and into the palace. And we were able to get in before the big tour groups came and the crowds showed up. And it does get really, really crowded later on in the day. But we got in, we got through the palace, and we got out before it got hectic at all. And so it was super quiet and peaceful. and really contributed to the atmosphere of our visit. And it also helped with the heat because southern Spain is hot in the summer. And when we got there in the morning, it was still very tolerable. It got hotter as the day went on. So we were done by the time the heat got really bad in the afternoon. So that's what I recommend, is going early in the morning.
What's the deal with passports? I know that you mentioned needing to have your passport.
Yes, it's also really important that you bring your passport with you for your visit, because they actually have a scanner machine and they scan your passport when you enter the complex. So you have to show your tickets and your passport. And then not only at the entry, but then you have to show your passport at various other checkpoints along the way. You have to show it when you enter the Nasrid Palace and when you enter the gardens, and
That's kind
just
of
at
weird.
several points there are checkpoints. It is. I guess it's a security thing, but I don't think you could get in without your passport. So definitely don't forget to bring it. And then also keep it handy during your visit, because you're going to have to be
Mhm.
pulling it out multiple times.
They check the kids' passports too, or just the adults?
The kids too.
Everybody. I'm like, I really want to know the purpose for that, but um that's probably not important. It's just very strange. So, and also a really, really good tip, because it would be such a shame to be there and not be able to actually see anything. And did I make that up, that I saw in your stories that someone had said they bought a resold ticket online from for like $200+?
Yes, it was this girl we were standing next to in line, and she was asking us how we got our tickets. And I said, well, I just bought them from the official website 3 months in advance. They were 19 euros. Kids are free. And she said, wow, well, I've been traveling. She was British. And she said, I've been traveling, and I decided last night that I wanted to come to the Alhambra today. And the official tickets were sold out. And so she ended up getting some resale ticket. She said 200 British pounds um, for her ticket. And so
Gosh,
at least she was able to get in. But it's ridiculous when you can get a ticket for 19 euros.
that is
Yeah,
painful.
that must be where all the tickets go. People get on 3
Yeah.
months out, buy them all, and then resell them for $200 a pop,
Yep.
just like concerts domestically. I hate
hmm
that so much.
Yeah, it's like the Taylor Swift effect.
Yes.
This is super off topic,
Um,
but on that note, did y'all see, are you familiar, Addie, with the Savannah Bananas?
oh, the baseball.
Yes, yes. Okay, well, for people who are familiar with them, they are like their tickets are such a big deal, right? They're hard to get. They sell out. There's a lottery, all this stuff. They actually just introduced in the last couple months that starting, I guess now for the next year, they have their own special resale spot so that people can't mark up their tickets, because it's such a problem that people buy things up just to sell on the secondary market. And so they're trying to do something about it. We'll get back on topic, but it made me think about that because it's big business for people, right? Buying up tickets to things just to sell on the secondary market. So glad people don't have to worry about that as long as they book 3 months out for this. But it's crazy. It's crazy. We are going to take a quick minute away from the episode to tell you about our good friends over at Card Pointers. Card Pointers is such a game changer for making sure you can manage and keep up with all the great money saving offers and points earning opportunities in this game.
Guys, we know that points and miles is overwhelming, especially when you first get started. There are so many things to keep track of. You've got annual fees, you've got offers, you've got credits. Card Pointers is a one-stop shop for all of these things that keeps you super organized, helps you know which cards to use for which things, helps you keep track of what offers and benefits are on certain cards. It will let you know what your 524 score is and when you have these annual fees coming up. Just this past week, we wanted to watch a show, my husband and I, and it was on Hulu, and we did not have a Hulu subscription. And I was like, heck no, I'm not going to go in and pay $12.99 a month or whatever it is to watch like this one show. That's
Right.
not worth it to me. And I got in Card Pointers and I searched Hulu in all of the offers that it had added from all of the different places, because it will do that for you. it will add your Amex offers, it will add your Chase offers, and it will just do it automatically when you log into those websites. And I was able to see that for 3 months in a row on my Amex Gold, I had a $10.99 Disney Hulu bundle credit, which meant I was essentially paying like $1 a month for the next 3
Right.
months just because I was able to find that via card pointers. Let me tell you what I would not have done. I would not have gone to each bank individually trying to search through all the cards to see what offers were available. So the fact that it was all there in one platform, so easy to search and already auto added to my card, such a game changer.
I love it. And this app is so well done that iTunes has highlighted it multiple times as their app of the day. So there are a ton of features. We have a link in our show notes. That link will always have the lowest possible price for card pointers. You can get a lifetime subscription or you could pay yearly, but it pays itself off so quickly. Like you said, that was $30 right there that it saved you or allowed you guys to do something fun that you wouldn't have normally done had you not realized through card pointers that you had the offer. So, guys, go to the link in our show notes, check it out, and now we'll head back to the episode. Okay, back on topic, back to Alhambra, which I didn't mention before, but another random thing. The only reason that I know Alhambra and heard of it before is for I would say all the K-drama fans out there. I don't know if there are any, but if there are any K-drama fans out there, there's one called Memories of Alhambra, which is one of the very first K-dramas I ever came across. So when I saw that this is where you went and where you enjoyed, I was like, whoa, there's that K-drama coming back. Super random. Back to Alhambra. Tell us more.
Sure. This is just another tip for people traveling with young kids. Definitely bring a stroller because the Alhambra complex is huge and there's a lot of walking. Just from the gate to get to the entry of the palace is maybe about a 15-minute walk. But for the most part, it's stroller friendly. It's fairly flat, not a lot of stairs until you get to the Nasrid Palace, and strollers are not allowed inside the palace. And they do have a stroller check area. It's in one of the buildings that is before you get in line for your palace entry with your timed ticket. And we didn't realize that. We knew we couldn't bring the stroller into the palace, but we thought we could leave it right at the gate when we went in. And we got to the front of the line and they said, no, you've got to take the stroller all the way back out to the stroller check area, which we had not even seen. So,
Oh, no.
it was fine. My husband ran it back and we kept our place in line and everything.
Good.
But just to save some other people the hassle. And instead of a stroller, what we did for she was 2 then, she was about to turn 3. We brought a cloth backpack toddler carrier that my husband wore. And so he wore her on his back and carried her through that portion of the Alhambra visit. Our 6-year-old walked, he was fine. But they are very strict about not wanting people and children touching the walls or like splashing in the water features or anything that might be attractive to a child. So we definitely prepped our kids on the expectations ahead of time. They were totally fine, but something to keep in mind because they do have security and guards all along the way that are making sure that everybody keeps the palace and the complex nice and in good shape for future visitors.
Passports and guards. This place sounds legit. Sounds like I don't want my toddler to go running and screaming through the palace.
No, we talked about quiet voices a lot. And like I said, we put toddler in the carrier, so she was contained.
Yeah, I guess when something is built starting in the 1200s, they really have to do a lot to keep it preserved, which makes sense. But that is like a nightmare that I would have if I was bringing a young child. I'd be like, please, 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 don't be crazy. My kid did not know what an inside voice was for about the first 7 years of her life. So I'm not sure that would have been the place for her. Okay, let's move on to another incredible thing you did on your trip, which was visiting the Generalife Gardens. Did I say that right?
You did. It's
Amazing.
spelled like General Life, but it's pronounced in Spanish Generalife. And it's actually part of the Alhambra complex. So it's included in your admission to the
Oh,
Alhambra. It's just another section, and it's the gardens. It's very expansive, it's beautiful, also has water features, um, flowers, and it kind of you can look out over the city of Granada. It's because the Alhambra's up on a hill, like I said before, and so you can look down over the city from the gardens. And then there's also a summer palace that you can access from the gardens, which is also really nice to tour. It's not quite as well preserved as the Nazareth Palace, but it's another area that you can go in and see that's all part of your Alhambra ticket.
What amount of time would you say you should allot for this? Is this a 100% your full day activity? How many hours do you think somebody would spend there if they're just planning their itinerary?
I would say it's a half day activity. If you show up first thing in the morning, you're probably done by lunchtime. With kids, we probably went through it a little bit quicker than we would have if they had not been with us because we wanted to keep everybody in good spirits. And, they don't like to stop and listen to every part of the audio guide or read every sign or
Yes.
anything. So if it were adults only, I would say probably 3 to 4 hours. We did maybe 2 hours, two and a half.
okay. That is very good to know. Give us the general vibe of the town. Is it a place where you maybe don't have to have a plan so much and you can just walk around and explore and take in the culture and eat? Or is that not really, is it not a walkable town? It's hard to tell from your videos, but I get the sense that you can just kind of walk through the whole thing. But you also called it a city, so maybe it's a lot bigger than I'm picturing it in my head.
Yeah, it's a small city, so it has more modern areas and then more historic areas, but a lot of it's walkable, and it is a really fun place to just explore and wander around. We did a lot of that. We find that with kids, it's maybe good to have one activity per day that's planned. And our big activity for Granada was the Alhambra. So,
Mhm.
other than that, I didn't really have much of an agenda while we were there. So, we did spend a lot of time walking down the streets. We would stop for tapas and ice cream, lots of shopping. My husband got some nice leather shoes.
Ooh.
And yeah, I wish I had gotten some. We also came across a couple of playgrounds, and those are always a hit with the kids. So pretty much anytime we see one, we stop for a bit, we let them run around and get some energy out. And at one point, this was also really cool. We just stumbled upon the cutest little wooden carousel in one of the town squares, and it was bicycle powered. So the kids got on this
Amazing.
carousel. They got on this carousel, and the operator actually like pedaled a bike attached to it, and that made the carousel spin. And it was just super cute and kind of unique. I'd never really seen one of those before.
I love that so much. Were you getting around the town, like, for example, from your Airbnb to the Alhambra? Was that an Uber situation or could you actually walk?
We took a taxi to the Alhambra because I think you could walk, but it's down a big hill, kind of through town, and then up another big hill. And we just wanted to make sure we got there, that we didn't miss our timed entry to the palace and all of that. So we took a taxi. When we went down into town to explore, we would walk down. And then I think coming back to our Airbnb up on the hill, we walked it one time and then we took a taxi a couple times. So it was a little bit of a mix. It just depends on how much you want to walk. And they also have a little mini bus that runs loops up through the Albaicin and down into town and then up to the Alhambra. And it's really cheap. I think it's only a euro or two to ride. And We didn't do that just because we had stroller and like we had stuff with us
Yeah.
and didn't want to be those tourists that are like holding up the bus because we're having to get the kids out and fold up our stroller and lug everything on board. And so we either just walked or took taxis, but there is a bus option also that is very popular.
That's good to know. And the taxis were easy to find and pretty affordable as well.
Yes, yes. We were actually when we were going to the Alhambra, we were waiting outside our Airbnb on the road, and we were kind of waiting for the bus because we thought we would just take the bus, but then a taxi came first, and we were like, well, we'll just take the taxi because it's here.
There you go.
So plenty of taxis and easy to catch, very affordable, a few euros to get down into town, not expensive at all.
Let me ask a payment question. One, I'm curious, even though you didn't use the bus, if you happen to know, is there a transportation app that you recommend people should download to pay for their bus rides and transportation? Or do you need to have cash? Even with your taxis, were you able to pay, with your phone on, your Apple Wallet, electronically? Or do you need to have cash to pay people just so that people are prepared?
For taxis, we just paid with a credit card. Of course, I want those points. So we used the credit card. Cash would have been fine also. We didn't have any apps or anything for transportation. For the bus, there are bus cards, and our Airbnb host actually left us a bus card that stays at the Airbnb. And so people who stay there can use it. And then when it's empty, you're supposed to put a little bit more money on it. So we could have used that, but we didn't. So there is a bus card system. And it
Okay.
was nice that our Airbnb host provided one, but if you were to do that, you might have to figure out how to get one on your own.
That's really cool. I love that they did that. Okay, another one of the activities that you guys did in town was visiting the Cathedral of Granada. It looked stunning. If anybody wants to see it, go over to Addie's Instagram and take a look. Is that open to the public, or is that something that you need to pay to enter?
You do pay to enter. It's so gorgeous. You pay to enter, but it's only €7 per adult. The kids were free, so not a big expense at all. And we spent maybe an hour or so going through it. It was built in the early 16th century, started in the early 16th century, and took 181 years to build.
Wow.
So very old, very ornate. And for the cathedral, we bought our tickets the day before. We did buy them online, but bought them the day before. So not like the Alhambra that you need to book in advance. You can decide day of or day before, and it should be fine. It probably would have been fine to even buy tickets at the door, but we were able to skip the lines and just walk straight in with our electronic tickets.
It looked so incredible. Talk to us a little bit about the food. I noticed that you said you did the grocery store at one point and ate on your terrace, which is like my favorite thing to do when traveling, if that is an option. That sounds incredible to me. But if people were eating out, what could they expect to be spending at restaurants? Are there lots of options, or is it a pretty significant walk to get to a nearby restaurant? Give us the layout food wise.
Yeah, lots of restaurant options down in town, restaurants everywhere, tapas bars everywhere. And Granada is still kind of one of those old school cities where if you go to a restaurant or a bar and you order a drink, they bring you a tapa, a little snack for free. A lot of
Love that.
Spanish areas have kind of gotten away from that, but in Granada, it's still alive and well that you can get your free tapa with a drink. So pop in a little bar, order something, hang out for a while. We liked to try to find bars or restaurants that also had ice cream places nearby, and we would get the kids an ice cream, and then we would sit down and my husband and I would order a drink, and we would just chill out for a little while. That was great. And then the terrace at our Airbnb, it was just so amazing that 2 of our 3 nights there, we went to the grocery store and we bought food and we had a rooftop picnic overlooking the Alhambra, and it was perfect. And the funny thing is, we were right next to we were right below the San Nicolas viewpoint, which is a famous viewpoint. I think I remember President Clinton had talked about going there with his family, made a big deal about how gorgeous it was. Like people come to this viewpoint, especially at sunset, and there are some restaurants right around there that are very expensive because it's the big tourist spot to sit and watch
Mm-hmm.
the sunset over the Alhambra. And we had the exact same view at our Airbnb as these expensive restaurants. And we were able to just do our own thing. We didn't feel like we were rushed in or out. The kids had space to move around because we were in our own private little terrace. So totally recommend that. And I was so glad that we were able to do that right from our own Airbnb.
Girl, this Airbnb
Incredible.
link, it's about to be the hottest link we've ever put in our show notes. What a find.
Yes, yes. The other thing that was cool about it is the lady who was our hostess. She checked us in and everything, and she told us that this property had been in her family for generations, and that her mother grew up there, and all of
Oh,
that.
I
So
love that.
it's their place. She has a personal connection to it, and so they keep it nice. And it was a great option, and it had a laundry washer, just a washer, not a dryer, but washer, and then you could hang dry clothes.
Game changer for the carry-on suitcase life anyways. Oh my goodness.
Okay, well, as we wrap up this with Granada, do you have any general tips that you want to leave people with who are planning a trip to Spain, whether it's Granada or Madrid, Barcelona, all of the places that you have visited in the past, just helpful apps or things to know in general when you're visiting Spain?
Yeah, so you definitely want to be mindful of the weather. Spain is in the southern part of Europe, and it's very hot in the summer, especially in southern Spain, in Andalusia, where Sevilla and Granada are. Sevilla was the hottest. It was in the hundreds while we were there. Granada is usually a little bit cooler because it's a little bit more up in the mountains, but still hot. So we partook in the traditional Spanish siesta culture while we were there. Got out in the morning, did some touring, then we would come back to the Airbnb, and all of us would take a little nap because we were all ready for the nap. And then we would come back out again in the evening when the sun went down or was getting lower, and we would have a late dinner just like the Spaniards do. They typically eat dinner very late, like 9, 10 o'clock.
It's awful. That would be an adjustment. Mary Ellen's face says it all, but I would do
my
it.
eyes are big right now. I haven't seen 10 o'clock in a while.
But if you get a siesta every
Right.
afternoon,
True.
then you're fine.
True. Yeah, I can't sleep at all if I fall asleep in the middle of the day. So I love this for them. And I would definitely want to get into it. Do you feel like 3 days is enough, or could somebody spend a whole week and not get bored? That's a weird question because I would never get bored in a place like this. I could just sit and stare at it all day, and that's perfect for me. Some people like to stay really busy and keep finding things to do. So give us your ideal amount of time to spend in Granada.
I'm like you. I could sit and stare forever and enjoy a glass of wine and some nice food. I thought 3 days was perfect for us. And I think that would be good for most visitors because we had 2 full days. So one day was mostly the Alhambra, focused around the Alhambra. And then the second day was going down into town and doing the cathedral and wandering around. And I felt like we hit the highlights of Granada in that time. I think longer, if you like to be on the go, you might get bored. Although Granada is in the mountains, you can actually see the mountains in the distance. And we had a taxi driver tell us that in the winter you can go skiing in the mountains, and then the same day you can be down at the beach because Granada is not super far from the coast. It's not on the coast, but it's not super far away. So he's like, you could do skiing and then go to the beach in the same day. Maybe you're not swimming because it's winter, but I think there's also other outdoor recreation in the mountains, hiking and things like that. So if that is interesting to you, then you could probably spend more time in Granada and venture outside the city for some of those activities.
Perfect.
That sounds very interesting. I love a mountain ski in the same day as the beach. That's so cool. Okay, so before we send people off, we like to hear what was the last travel credit card that you got and why did you choose it?
Yes. This is interesting because I did a little Aporama back on September 30th. So I applied for two credit cards in the same day, which I normally don't do and normally probably wouldn't
Yes.
recommend, but
Right, but that's a fun
there was a
story.
specific reason. It's a fun story, and there's a specific reason that I did those two cards on that day. So first of all, I will say that one was a personal card, one was a business card. They were from different banks, and I knew I could meet the minimum spend on both cards. So if you are going to apply for more than one card in the same day, those are the guidelines I would recommend.
Mm-hmm.
So the first card, and this was the one I really wanted, was the Chase Inc. Business Unlimited. We all love our Chase Ultimate Rewards. There was an elevated offer for 90,000 points after spending $4,000 in 3 months. And I love to transfer my Chase points to Hyatt and sometimes to airlines as well, but really love that Hyatt, like so many people do. And the reason I applied when I did is because that Chase had announced that in early October, they were going to start limiting referral bonuses to new business credit card customers. And so I felt like this was the last chance to do a P1, P2 referral before that change took effect. So my husband referred me and I got the card. And the second card that I opened was the Barclays Advantage Aviator Red, which is a
Mm-hmm.
card that earns American Airlines miles. And I applied for this card because September 30th was actually the last day that you could apply for this card before it was closed to new applications forever, because Citibank is taking over all of the American Airlines cards. So I waited till the last minute. I figured it was a nice to have. If I didn't get it because I just applied for the Inc. card, I wouldn't have been devastated, but I was automatically approved for both of these cards. And the offer was 50,000 miles after one purchase of any amount. So it was go buy a pack of gum or whatever. And the annual fee was waived for the first year. So basically a free 50,000 American Airlines miles.
Yeah, I'm still kicking myself for missing out on that one. I had thought it was going through the end of October based on what we had been hearing at one point. And then there was still links floating around and people were saying that they were still getting approved. And then it didn't work out for me. So anyways, that was a huge bummer, but I'm glad that you managed to get that one, and getting two in one day is pretty exciting. The only time I ever applied for two cards in one day is when one application went into review and I didn't think I was going to get it, and the other one I really wanted. So I was like, I'm going to apply before it hits my credit and they can see it. Because a lot of times if you can sneak that in, it doesn't have time to show up yet. But as you mentioned, if you cannot hit both sign-up bonuses, please do not apply for two cards in one day. And don't do it regularly anyways. It's probably not that good of an idea on a regular basis. Where are you heading next on points? I feel like you must have something super exciting planned. You seem like you're an advanced planner.
Yes, I am a year in advance planner. So I already have winter trip, spring break trip, and next summer
Wow.
going back to Europe are all booked. So I'm so excited. We're going to Quebec City later this month for like a festive winter Christmas market getaway. We're just going for 3 nights. And that came about because last year, this time of year, I was so jealous of all the people that were going to Europe for the Christmas markets. And my son's in kindergarten. We just don't have that much time off around the holidays to do a big trip. And we want to be home since the kids are young for actual Christmas. So I'm hoping that this will be like all the European Christmas vibes without having to leave North America.
I mean, we're literally at me and Joy from Savvy Travel Mamas and Michelle from Jet Setting with Johnsons are going to Carmel, Indiana for their Christmas market. So We'll see how a domestic Christmas. I bet Quebec probably does it a little bit better than Indiana, but I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, I saw that y'all were doing that, and I didn't know about Carmel, Indiana, so we'll have to compare notes after.
Yes, I'm really excited. I feel like so many people do not have time around the holidays to actually do a full European Christmas market trip. So I'm kind of on the hunt. Like I want to start collecting all of the domestic attainable options for Christmas markets. I will report back on what I come up with. I think it's just going to be the one this year, but I am very excited to hear about your trip. That sounds amazing. Where are you headed for spring break and summer?
We're going to Baja Mar in the Bahamas for spring break. So I know y'all have done an episode of that, and I think it was Mary Ellen went, right?
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah. Last January. It was fantastic. I was
Yeah.
just looking back at pictures. My kids were so happy. I think they would love to go back there every year. We will not because even with points, it's still expensive and there's a lot of the world to see, but they loved it. I think it'll be a hit.
Yeah, I'm excited. We booked it last year before the price increased last March. So we still got it at the old rate. We're saving money for food, and I think it'll be a lot of fun.
It's going to be great. Okay, and then the summer, what you going back to Europe, you said?
Going back to Europe, I didn't want to book another Europe trip until after we finished our Spain and Portugal trip in case it was a disaster with the kids. But we loved it so much. And we were still over there and we were like, oh, yeah, we're absolutely going to do this again next year. So I built our trip for this coming summer around a flight I found from Milan to New York on the Emirates A380 in business class. That's their fifth freedom flight. And there were 4 seats available. And so I booked that. And then everything else was built around that. So my husband's
Love.
my husband's wish list, top of his wish list was Paris because he's never been. And so we're gonna fly into Paris and make our way into Switzerland, and we're gonna be up in the Lauterbrunnen Valley in Switzerland. And then we will go down to Lake Como and spend a few nights there and then a night in Milan before we fly out.
Oh my gosh. What a trip. I absolutely love a trip that's built around a flight. I was telling somebody recently, my uncle, we were in Georgia and I was at my uncle's house and he was wanting something very specific. He's like, I need flights to this place in February. Can you get me those on points? And I was like, look, the best deals that you're going to get are when you start with the flight and work outwards and you don't have very specific dates. So I love to hear that you literally built this entire thing over this incredible. I can't wait to hear about this experience.
Well, everybody, if you want to follow along on Addie's adventures, make sure to follow her on Instagram at In Pursuit of Points. And Addie, is there anywhere else online that people can find you?
No, I am an Instagrammer in pursuit of points.
Perfect.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. This episode was fantastic. I'm really excited to have my husband's sleeping because we're in night shift mode here. But when he wakes up, I'm going to accost him and be like, do you want to go to this place with me next year? It's warm. It's beautiful. It's got everything that both of us like. Perfect balance there. So thank you again for coming on and sharing all of this with us. And everybody make sure that you follow Addie. Come join us in the Facebook group. Like, subscribe, follow the podcast, all of the things. We will see you here next time.
Bye, guys.
If you enjoyed this show today, please consider writing us a review or clicking 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please subscribe and follow along so that you never miss an episode.
You can follow the podcast on Instagram or YouTube at Wonderland on Points Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Family Travel for the Win with the number 4.
And you can find me on Instagram at Points to Wonderland.
If you're thinking about getting a new travel rewards credit card, consider using the links in our show notes. Using our links helps to support us and keep our podcast going so we can provide you with all the latest tips and tricks when it comes to traveling on points.
And if you aren't sure which card is right for you, shoot us an email at wonderlandonpoints@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you here next time.